So in today's video we are gonna see, what if Deku survived zombie apocalypse and had harem? Movie. This story is My Hero Academia of the Dead by Anthony Tyler 9. Before starting, make sure to hit that like button, as your one like motivates me to bring more stories, and subscribe the channel if you are new so you won't miss our latest videos. Izuku was walking home from school as he had suffered a horrible beating from Bakugo. He just didn't get why that guy wanted him to give up his dream of becoming a hero. He had always supported his dreams of becoming a hero, so why couldn't he? Izuku made it home as he went to the bathroom to take a look at the damage that he had taken. Surprisingly, the world seemed quiet on his walk home today. No villain attacks and seemingly no heroes were around at all. It was something he wanted more than anything. He wanted a quiet day, and he finally got it. He needed to clean up his wounds before his mother came home, but for some reason he had a bad feeling about what was going on. There was always heroes around the area, and they had always had a villain to fight. And the fact that there were no villains as well as heroes, that was a cause for concern. After cleaning up his wounds and counting the number of scars he had on his body, he went to make himself some dinner as his mother had taught him to make food. As he was making his food, the news station came on the television as it seemed like they were all in a hurry to pack up and leave. Attention one and all, there is a viral outbreak on the rise in the entire world. We advise you all to stay in your homes as well as stay hidden. There have been reports of heroes going into the hospitals with bite marks as well as dying en masse. We advise you to stay near your family, as well as hunker down with as much supplies as you can. We don't know how long this will take to blow over. God be with us, the news reporter said, before a crash was heard from behind them. As soon as that was heard, Izuku watched as the news anchor had fought for his life against some people walking towards his position and then was taken down really easily. He watched as the man was taken apart, all while he was screaming in pain and suffering. Turning off the television, Izuku moved to the phone as he made to call his mom to make sure that she is alright. Ring 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 ring. Izuku. Are you okay? Izuku Midoriya, or Izuku's mother, called scared. I am okay. Are you okay, mom? Izuku asked, scared for her safety. I'm sorry, Izuku. I am so sorry. I don't know why, but you need to make sure that you're not bitten by them. Izuku said, scared for her life whilst her breathing got even more erratic. Mom, what are you talking about? Izuku asked, scared. Why you need to make sure that you don't get bitten by these undead creatures. Izuku started, but after hearing a groan outside her room, whispered to her son. Are you safe, mom? Izuku asked, worried. I'm sorry, baby, but I can't come home. I was bitten by them. I'm so sorry for you. I am leaving you all alone by yourself in all of this. Train yourself to survive in this new world, okay, sweetie? Izuku asked, a bit louder. But this was the wrong choice for her, as banging was heard on the other side of the phone for Izuku. Mom, you need to get out of there. Izuku yelled out. Baby, I am so proud of you. I am sorry for not defending you better against those who hate you. I wish you had a better life. I hope you can forgive Mbra Aor. *ya! Quote. Izuku apologized before being eaten on the phone. Mom, moom. Izuku yelled on his phone. As soon as he was about to call her again, the phone lines went dark, and he looked at his phone with fear as there was no internet as well as connection to Wi-Fi. Mom, I'm sorry for not telling you sooner about my life at school. Izuku said, sadly while crying. As he said this, he heard explosions coming from the city, and he moved to his window and saw that the buildings in the distance were exploding as well as there were people on the streets running from the dead. Izuku covered the windows of his home with sheets as well as barricaded his home with his table and chairs. As he was about to barricade his front door, it began to bang relentlessly as he stared through the peephole as he saw a young child in fear as he heard groans coming towards the little girl. Opening his door quickly, he found her covered in blood as well as guts as he brought her inside and barricaded his front door. As soon as this happened, there was banging on the door as the groans from the undead were loud. Izuku looked at the little girl as she stared in fear of the door, and Izuku picked her up and moved her to the bathroom in order to clean her up. In the bathroom, she was sat in the bathtub as he washed her hair as well as body softly as she stared at him in fear of what might happen to her. As soon as she noticed his faraway look in his eyes, She thought that she did something to him and was about to speak up when he looked at her with compassion as well as love compared to the ones she received from him. "What's your name, little one?" Izuku asked, softly. My name is Eri." The now named Eri said. "My name is Izuku Midoriya. And don't worry, I will protect you from them. I will take care of you and make sure that you're safe," Izuku said, with a sad smile. The weeks that went by was horrifying as Izuku had to make a campfire inside the house in order to make food for him and little Eri. With both of them eating the food they have, it would only last a few days at least, and during this time Izuku was working out in order to make his muscles stronger in order to defend himself from the undead. He had also gone out into the building to collect food from the neighbors' homes as he knew that they had left their homes going to work in the mornings and most likely had died. As he returned, he found Eri staring at him in fear as she thought he would die out there. He had placed large bowls on the roof of the building in order to collect rainwater to get some fresh water. They still had electricity, so if they collected enough water, they could make it cold enough to drink. Izuku hadn't heard what happened to the Bakugos, and if they died, he didn't know what to think. He had a bad relationship with Katsuki, but at the same time he hoped that his mother was at least alive so she could be there with him. He needed a mother just like little Eri needed him. Izuku would go to sleep with Eri that night with her hugging his chest tightly as she thought he would disappear in the morning. As he woke up the next morning, he noticed that the amount of undead in the area was lower than normal as well as they all seemed to be gone from the area. Izuku collected food and other supplies from other apartments in the area as he collected knives as well in order to defend himself against the dead. He didn't know how many days had passed since the start of the apocalypse, but he knew that he couldn't leave Eri all by herself as it would mean he couldn't keep his promise to her. As he was searching for food and supplies, he found a woman who was in the middle of the street as if looking for something. She wore battle-ready clothes as she had a backpack on her back, and she was searching for the cars nearby for seemingly supplies. Izuku had moved away from the woman thinking that she was an undead, but before he could get very far the woman turned around and was revealed to be a young girl around his age. She had dreadlocks for hair that was salmon-colored. She had crosshairs for eyes, and she was smiling at him as she ran to him. Izuku, thinking that she was an undead, ran for his life as soon as she came close to him. The girl didn't seem bothered by this as she continued to follow him around the area. But as soon as he ran into a building, he got to the 4th floor as he got inside his home and placed the barricade on it in order to keep the undead girl out. But as soon as he thought the coast was clear he heard soft knocking on his door. "Hey, are you all right? I need to know if you're alive in there," the girl called out. Izuku was at a loss for words. He thought he and Eri were the last ones alive. He opened the door and pulled her inside as she sat on his couch as he checked her for bites or scratches on her body. She was being amused by this as she never thought that she would be the one who would have her space invaded by a boy who seemed like her age, but he seemed more scared of others than he was of wanting to get into her personal space. All right, no bites or scratches. I thought you were one of them," Izuku said, sitting on the other couch. "What do you mean one of them?" the girl asked, confused. "The dead, I've noticed more of them coming around here as well as moving on afterward. It's not natural," Izuku said, as he looked at his notes as well as his diary of the world going to shit. "What are you writing in?" the girl asked. "I am writing down what happened today. Think of it like a catalog of the days as well as nights of what happened so far. And my name is Izuku Midoriya, nice to meet you," Izuku said, stuttering a little. "My name is Hatsume Mei, future owner of Hatsume Industries," she said, loudly, which got Izuku to place his hand over her mouth. "Quiet, we can't let the undead know we're here," Izuku whisper shouted. As Mei nodded her head she stared into his eyes as he was extremely terrified of the undead seemingly, but then a thought occurred to her. What if she stayed with him and they cleared this area out and made it a survivor camp? It would give her a job to do with him as well as they could allow others to enter the place for safety. "Can I stay here with you? We could start a community," Mei asked. "As much as I would love that, I can't let you stay longer. The undead are enough around here, and with you. I'm sorry but I wouldn't be able to control my hormones enough to not fuck you silly," Izuku said, looking away blushing. "What do you mean by that?" Mei asked. "The undead are capable of smelling those with quirks. I have to put Eri under my dirty clothes in order to hide her quirk's scent. Izuku said, looking away. Wait, you found something on the undead? She asked bewildered. Yes, and I found other things like they can use the quirks that they used to have as well as apparently when I am bitten by them nothing happens. Izuku said, revealing a 2-day-long bite mark on his left wrist. As soon as Mei saw this she knew that his body held genes that didn't allow the undead to kill him through a bite. They could have a cure. Wait, if you're immune to them, that means we can find the cure. Mei said, as Izuku started to talk. Look Mei, as much as I would love to help the world get back to normal, nobody would even think that it was me that caused the healing of the world. They would think that I had started this mess and try to kill me as soon as possible. We just need to let nature take its course in order to survive this world. Izuku said, looking out the window. I can only allow you to stay here for 1 night, maybe 2 at the most, but if you wish to stay here you need to help me in getting supplies as well as collecting materials to block off the roads as well as alleyways from the undead getting in. Izuku said, looking at her. You can count on me Izuku. I will help you get this place ready for people to come and survive with us. Mei said, with a smile. Well, thank you for your help. I will sleep on the couch, you can sleep on the bed in my room, it's down the hall and to the left. It has an All Might sticker on it with my name on it. Izuku said, placing Eri on his chest and falling asleep. Mei entered the room and found a lot of hero merch on the walls as well as a stand in a corner of the room. She went to sleep with one thing on her mind: why was he so cautious around others? Waking up on the couch the next morning, Izuku gets up off the couch and makes breakfast for himself as well as Eri and their new guest. He makes scrambled eggs, with bacon as well as a muffin as he gets the ingredients out on a pan and cooks them for most of the morning. During this time Mei wakes up and enters the kitchen of the quirkless boy as Eri enters as well. They smell the food as he is setting up the table for the 3 of them. With this they are able to eat their breakfast in peace and quiet until Mei begins talking about what she used to do before the apocalypse. It was a nice and calm morning as he watched her go on and on about each and every baby that she had created. And to find out it was to all be shown at the UA entrance exams later that same year, made him wish this never happened in the first place. After eating breakfast, Izuku and Mei collected as much wood planks as they could to get a basic fence around the house in order to defend against the dead. Clearing out the apartment complex was easy enough since not many people remained there after the fall of society. But Izuku could swear every night he went to sleep he heard the sounds of people crying for help as they were eaten alive by the dead. It was so bad that he had to soundproof his room in order to sleep at night, and since Mei was going to stay there he managed to connect the rooms of the floor they were on in order to make sure that they had enough room for the 3 of them. It took them a lot of time as before it was 3 p.m. Izuku looked around the neighborhood in search of something and it was honestly scaring Mei and Eri with how he muttered about something like a horde coming by. Mr. Izuku, what do you mean that a horde is coming? Eri asked, scared. Why yeah, what do you mean by that? Mei asked, confused. There should have been a horde coming by today. Before you came over 2 days ago, I had managed to time the hordes that came by every week and there should have been one today around this time. Izuku explained, as he stared at both of them. Eri became terrified as Mei just looked at him like he was crazy. Did he really watch the dead like a hawk and time when they horde around this place? Are you sure that they'd even? Before Mei could finish her thought process, a huge amount of rumbling came over the neighborhood. As soon as it happened, Izuku hid both Mei and Eri inside his dirty clothes as he hid inside a closet as the dead came by the house. Of course, the closet was next to his dirty clothes, but he heard how Mei and Eri were breathing heavily as they were terrified of being torn to shreds. The dead come here every week on Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Dead on the time every time, but this time they are late by a few minutes. I guess either my timing is a bit off, or someone or something got them a little distracted for a little bit. Izuku muttered. Mei hearing this made her theory that they came to large amounts of people hoping for a free meal, but it was just that, a theory. Soon after the rumbling happened it ended as both Izuku, Mei and Eri came out of their hiding spots as he caught his breath that he never thought he was holding. Well, I think we should get that wall erected immediately. Mei said, now serious. Do you have everything you need to make the wall able to hold off thousands of undead? Izuku asked, worried. I guess I can use a lot more stuff in order to make sure the wall never falls, but we'd need people to watch over it as well as make sure that none of them can climb the walls in the first place. May said, smirking at him. Follow me, I know a place where we can get some metals as well as supplies for the wall as well as contacting the outside world. Izuku said, getting himself ready. Where are you going? May asked, with Eri not far behind. I am heading to Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. The one place with enough scrap metal as well as supplies to create a wall big enough to keep our area safe from the undead until we clean Japan dry of resources. Izuku said, walking through the door. May grabbed Eri as well as got herself ready for the journey to collect enough supplies in order to make the wall over the week as well as months coming. It didn't take that long in order to get to Dagoba when they found the trash-filled beach, and Izuku wasn't taking any chances when he found a few corpses on the ground nearby and stabbing them in the head. What they didn't know was that someone was watching them from afar with a serious look on their face. Izuku cleared a small portion of the beach in order to show May all the supplies he was talking about, as he stared at the horizon of the ocean. May stood next to him as she stared at the beautiful sight. If we make this small community a reality, we could actually get some visitors seeking shelter as well as a home. May said, looking into Izuku's emerald eyes. There was something mysterious about him that she just couldn't understand. He was so strong, but at the same time so meek as well as timid that she could have called him Broccoli Boy, but he just told her to call him Izuku. I know, but if this is the cost of making a small community that craves a small amount of peace, then I am willing to give up my quiet to make sure that people are secure as well as safe from the undead. Izuku said, looking at her, with a small but comforting smile. I knew that you were the right one. A voice called out. As Izuku immediately got on guard, he turned around only to come face to face to an old man who had seen better days. He had blonde bangs that came over his face as his eyes were sunken in as they were as blue as the sky. Izuku recognized the eyes as well as the get-up immediately. All Might? Izuku asked, confused. Quiet down, boy, All Might whisper shouted. A few minutes later and cleaning up some blood later. Izuku and May were trying to make sure that All Might was okay as he stared at them with shock and awe at how kind they were being. I thought you were taken down in the beginning. Izuku asked, bewildered. I thought the very same, but at the same time, I believe my quirk kept me alive the entire time. It didn't wish for me to die so soon. All Might said, looking at them. But if you're alive, what happened to the entirety of Japan? Is it like this everywhere? Izuku asked. Yes, it is the same across the entire world. I was barely able to escape due to my friend leading the dead away from me as I was extremely injured. But I don't know if he is alive at the moment. By the way, you can call me Toshinori Yagi. All Might said. Oh right, my name is Midoriya Izuku, and this is Hatsume Mei, and the little girl is Eri-chan. Izuku introduced his allies. Nice to meet you all, but are you trying to build a wall nearby? I couldn't help but overhear what you were talking about. Toshinori asked, curious. Why yeah, we were trying to collect enough supplies in order to begin making the wall tomorrow. It will take some time, but as soon as it's good enough we will be able to accept many people looking for shelter. But I hope that it will be enough. Izuku said, looking at the sky. Well, do you think I could help you in the hard labor? Toshinori asked. What do you get out of it? Izuku asked, cautious. I only wish to help. I couldn't stop this threat from getting out of hand, and I will be damned to see you three young souls get taken before your time. I have a few people with me hiding in UA, and they can come over and help you all build your wall tomorrow. I merely ask that me and a couple of my people can come by and stay with you to keep you all safe. After all, we are heroes. Toshinori said, will you all help on your side of this deal? Should I provide a small apartment for you all? Izuku asked one more time. I promise on my life as a hero that I will not allow you to be hurt in any way. I will personally make sure that you three are most definitely not harmed as well as not be kicked out from your own place of stay. Toshinori said, smiling happily at them. Well, you have until tomorrow in order to get them. Just know that I have all the information you need against the dead right now. I will withhold the information until your group comes here. Once you're all there I will set you up with a small apartment in the complex I currently live in. But you will either have to deal with a higher floor or the ground floor. Izuku said, I thank you for this opportunity, young Midoriya. I will bring them tomorrow. For now let's collect some supplies from here to begin your building. Toshinori said, entering his All Might form. For the remaining hours of the day the four could be seen collecting as much supplies as well as metals from the beach as possible. As soon as they returned to the area where Izuku lived, All Might noticed something alarming to himself about Izuku. He seemingly didn't have his mother nearby as he was all alone. He really hoped that his mother was still alive in his home. "All right, All Might, you can leave the stuff in the yard. I really don't want to be the cause of your death by being chewed apart," Izuku said, staring at the hero as he placed the supplies down. "If you don't mind me asking, my boy, where is your mother? Is she all right?" All Might asked. "I don't know, she left for work on the day that this all happened. She hasn't returned ever since then, and I couldn't even know if she was alive or dead. If I'm being honest, the only place she could be is at the Musudafu General Hospital, as it was where she worked as a nurse," Izuku said, looking away. All Might looked at the boy's body language and felt that he crossed a line. "I'm sorry for your loss, or if she is alive, I can make sure that she is alive on my way back to the school." "What does she look like?" All Might asked. "Sure and thank you. She is a small fluffy woman with long green hair with the same eye color as mine. She is very worried about family as well as cries a lot. Essentially she is a female version of me but shorter and plumper," Izuku said, walking into his home. All Might nodded his head as he jumped away from the area in order to look at the hospital. All Might paused. "I jumped away from the boy's location as I made my way back to the hospital he mentioned. I may have been in Musudafu for only a couple days, but I memorized the map that covers the entire Musudafu area. I got close to the hospital and searched for the looks of the woman that the boy talked about. I soon after found who I was looking for, and I couldn't help but worry." All Might's perspective third paw. All Might had landed near the Musudafu hospital as he stared through the windows as he saw Izuku Midoriya walking around the hospital. But she wasn't the person that Izuku mentioned to him. She was something worse as she had pieces of her body gone as well as a missing arm. Her face showed her beautiful features as well as her dulled white eyes showed her once green eyes. Her hair was pulled apart as if something tried to get to her brain. Not to mention that her stomach was wide open for the world to see. All Might took a picture in order to show it to Izuku so that he doesn't grieve over her corpse and come here to find it himself. He jumps away as he makes his way over to the UA campus. On his way through the campus yard he finds himself looking at the remaining members of the UA staff. The students had all left during the start of the apocalypse, that they all didn't know what happened to them all. They heard that Lemillion had stayed with Sir Night-Eye as they fought the undead to the best of their ability. But that wasn't the worst part. Night-Eye was taken down almost instantly as Lemillion was out trying to save civilians as he fought the dead on his own. All Might felt bad that he couldn't reconcile with his former sidekick as they had split apart in order to find himself a successor. But since this whole thing happened, he couldn't find himself one, and he found Izuku and Mei surprisingly not far away from UA. He entered the school only to find that some of the staff was walking around aimlessly, like they lost all kinds of determination to take back what was once the world of heroes. He walked up to the first one he saw. Shota Aizawa. He lost one of his best friends as they fought the undead during a mission to get some supplies for the school. The friend he lost was Present Mike, and they were on the mission themselves when it all went to shit, and he couldn't handle leaving his last friend behind. He found the dead a few days later with Present Mike in their little herd and killed them all and finished Present Mike himself. He couldn't let the man stay undead the entire time and wouldn't forgive himself if he allowed it to continue. Yagi, what happened out there? You took a lot longer than usual, Shota said, looking at him emotionlessly. I found some survivors out there, Shota. All Might said, staring into Shota's eyes, as they lifted a little before going back into their usual scowl. We aren't having them come here, are we? He asked. No, this place has given us the time to outlast the beginning, but it can't stay up forever. With the power outages we can't continue this forever. So I found these survivors who are in the process of beginning to build a wall around their block. It isn't far from here. I need everyone to meet in the teacher's lounge. All Might said, leaving. A few minutes later all that remained of UA was in the teacher's lounge as All Might looked at them. The remaining members was Midnight, Vlad King, Snipe, Smintos, and finally Chio. The rest had died when they left the safety of UA, and now that the leader of UA was dead the place was no longer safe. And they couldn't keep it running since the dead would be brought to it like a moth to a flame. I found some survivors out there. All Might started. There's more survivors? Midnight asked, surprised. Yes, they're young, very young. All Might said, as he watched the other teachers' faces lose their color. What are they doing out all alone? How old are they? Chio asked, concerned. They are around 6 for the youngest and 14 at the oldest. All Might said. Chio lost her color at the age of 6 being brought up. What happened to the 6-year-old? Aizawa asked. The boy with them found her running from the dead, said he allowed her in at the start and have been together for weeks. All Might informed. Are they doing well in terms of health? Chio asked. Yes, they are as healthy as you can be in this apocalypse. All Might said. What are they doing out there? Snipe asked. They were collecting supplies to build a barrier around their little block of the street. I believe that they have enough food to last them a little while. But there is one glaring problem with one of them. All Might said. What is the problem? Vlad King asked. We cannot take over the small block because of the fact that they're kids, but the worst part is the fact that as soon as I go back there. I have to tell the boy that his mother is dead. All Might said. His mother is dead? Chio asked, concerned more now. Yes, he said his mother had left for work at the start of the whole thing and hadn't come back since. He gave me her looks as well as what she was wearing at the time, and I personally think you should all look. All Might said, showing them the picture. They were immediately disgusted at the fact that the boy's mother was torn apart to where she could barely walk, but to be one of them. That was a horrible fate. But now to the problem at hand, how to tell him that his mother was killed off at the hospital. They didn't know what to say. I will be telling him the truth that his mother didn't make it as she was turned within the week most likely. But he will be emotionally hurt, so we will need to tread carefully. All Might said. Why are you talking as if we are going to leave and move to his area? Snipe asked. As much as I wish to stay here, this place is becoming more and more unstable for us to stay here. We would have to go across the city in order to get supplies at this rate, and if we continue doing that. All Might said, pausing to let it sink in for them. We will be running ourselves ragged and get ourselves killed. Vlad said, sighing. Why would we move over to where the kid lives? Didn't you say he doesn't live that far from us? Aizawa asked, confused. He does live nearby, but at most with me jumping around it will take at least 15 minutes to move around to find him. But if we walk there, it would take about an hour to reach there without drawing attention. All Might said, spoofing back into his skinny form. Well, since we don't really have a choice, should we grab as much supplies as we can? Midnight asked. We need to grab as much supplies as possible in order to move there by the end of the day. All Might said. Is there anything else you would like to tell us? Smintos asked. Actually, yes there is. He said that he had been watching the undead from afar and learned many things about them. He even might have learned how to take one down. All Might said, looking at them. Izuku perspective third POV. Izuku was moving some things around the apartment complex as he was preparing the rooms for the heroes that were at Ua. He didn't want them to come here and find them not having a good room to sleep in. Mei was in his mother's room already transforming it into a workshop for making tools as well as weapons. She already made some spears as well as bows and arrows. He was building the parts for the wall that would go all around the block in order to make collecting from the homes a lot easier. As he was clearing up the road of the remaining dead that strayed from the herd coming every Monday, he saw some people in the distance. He noticed one of the people being All Might as he ran over to them to introduce himself. Third POV. All Might and his allies were getting close to the block that All Might had told the other heroes about when they all noticed someone running to them calling out All Might's name. As they got a closer look at him, they saw his blushing face as well as his young looks. He couldn't look more than 12 at the moment as he was as thin as a stick. As he stopped in front of the heroes, Izuku looked at the ones there and was confused as to where the other Ua staff were. Hey, All Might, where is the rest of the staff? The boy asked. Young Midoriya, I hate to say this, but we are all that's left of the school staff. He said, shocking the boy. Follow me, I can show you to the apartment. I can tell how some of you are tired. Izuku said, walking ahead of them. As they got closer to the apartment, they found Izuku stop at one that looked like a slum apartment. Welcome to my humble abode. This is where I grew up from birth to now. although I opened up the lower and higher floors in order to make up for the amount of people coming. I didn't know how much would be coming though. Izuku rambled. So, do you have any information on the dead? Aizawa asked. Eraserhead is it? Izuku asked, receiving a nod. Well, to tell you the truth, I found out a lot about the dead. They tend to travel in herds like animals. They mostly tend to be worse at night since they are more powerful at that time. Not to mention that even the dead can use the quirks of those that have been killed by them. Although I am not a part of that for some reason, Izuku said, sadly smiling at them. What do you mean by that? Snipe asked, wary. What I mean is that I have been bitten by them, and nothing happened. Izuku said, revealing a bite mark on his back. It looked really old too, but you wouldn't think that he had made the mistake of getting bitten by the dead. How are you still alive? Chio asked, looking at the scar tissue. To be honest, I got lucky. I was surrounded by the dead when a loud explosion came from the town square, and it attracted all of their attention as I was able to escape with the bite mark. I was prepared to end it, but nothing happened. I didn't get sick, nor did I feel the need to eat others. It was like I got bit by an animal. Izuku explained. Sonny, you might be immune to whatever happened. Chio said, surprising him. But I'm quirkless. There is no way that they could turn me. Izuku said, shocking those around him. Why you're quirkless? All Might asked, confused. Yes, I have the proof in my home. But yeah, I got bit and lived to tell the tale. I never leave at night because of that bite. I go out during the day since it feels like the time first has gotten longer. Do you have any other people in your home? Smintos asked. Yes, 2 girls. One is Mei Hatsume while the other is a 6-year-old little girl named Eri, but I call her Eri-chan. I don't know her last name. I tried to find it online, but she apparently doesn't exist. Izuku said, entering his home. As soon as the door was opened, they found the said little girl running to Izuku as he hugged her. Izu, you were gone for so long I thought the monsters got you. Eri said, melting the hearts of the adults. Eri-chan, I need to talk to these guys, so can you stay near Mei? Izuku asked, receiving a nod from the little girl. She seems to trust you. Midnight said, watching the little girl run off. She really does. I saved her from the dead chasing her on the first day since this whole thing started. She hasn't left my side since then. Also, All Might anything about my mother? He explained and asked. I'm sorry to say, my boy, but she is gone. All Might said, as Izuku looked at him with tears at the brim of his eyes. I knew it. I knew she couldn't make it home. God fucking damn it, Izuku said, sitting down in the chair and crying. As he was crying, Midnight moved over to allow him to hug her as he cried. As he leaned into her touch, he eventually cried himself to sleep. Placing him on the couch, Midnight looked at the others as she made a decision. We need to bring his mother here and bury her. As long as he can see her grave, he can continue on. Midnight said, looking at Aizawa. No, I am not looking for his mother. Do you know what that would do to him? Aizawa said, staring at her. He just heard that his mother is dead, and you really think that he will think properly after that? He will want to find her for himself and make sure that she doesn't suffer anymore. Did you forget that that is what you did? Midnight asked. Sorry, but I am not going out there. I am already a mess. I won't be able to make these kinds of decisions anymore. Aizawa said, heading into the downstairs homes. I will go into one of the apartments downstairs and get some sleep. I will be making some walls around here made of concrete metal. Smintos said, leaving with a yawn. I suggest you stay here, Midnight. You might be the closest thing he could get to a mother figure. All Might said, as Snipe and Vlad followed closely behind him. It wasn't long until Eri came out of the room with Mei, who saw Midnight giving Izuku a lap pillow. If you are prepared for a fuck session when he wakes up, that is your funeral. Mei said, getting something to drink and heading to bed. What does she mean by that? Eri asked. She was just joking, dear. Want me to put you to sleep? Midnight asked. Eri nodded her head as Midnight moved Izuku's head onto the couch and got Eri to bed and read her a bedtime story to get her to sleep. As soon as she placed her to sleep, she went out to the couch to find that Izuku was still sleeping but seemingly having a nightmare now. She moved fast and placed his head on her lap again as she moved her fingers through his hair. His soft and fluffy hair. How does he get his hair this fluffy? Midnight screamed in her head. But as soon as she was messing with his hair, Izuku was slowly waking up. As he looked into her eyes, he noticed that her breasts were obstructing his view as he sleepily moved them out of the way with his arm as he stared into her blue eyes. Noticing her ever-growing blush on her face and where his arm was, he immediately yelped and jumped from the couch. "What happened? Who are you? And why was your lap so soft?" Izuku whisper screamed since it was late at night. "My name is Nimari Kayama, and I am the pro-heroine Midnight. You passed out due to emotional exhaustion. And finally, it was because I use lotion on my whole body." Midnight said. "Okay," Izuku said, blushing way too much as he was about to pass out again. But it was stopped because he had to tell her something. "Did I inform you all that you need my scent to keep the dead off of you guys?" Izuku asked, only to receive a shake of her head. Looking outside the window, all he saw was darkness as it seemed like Smentos covered the building with his cement. "Well, that's one way to keep the undead out of the place." Izuku's sweat dropped. Midnight looked at him as she asked him a singular question. "So, May told me that as soon as you would wake up that you would give me a fuck session?" she asked, smirking at him. Needless to say, he was not sleeping at all that night. Izuku was outside working on a wall in order to make sure that it wouldn't get broken down as easily. He didn't know how to build one, but he wouldn't be one to not try, so he used some of the wood fencing from his neighbors' homes as he placed them from one side of the block in order to block it off from the dead from going in that direction. As Izuku was working on the wall outside, the other adults were eating some breakfast from the food they brought to the apartment. "So, what are we going to be doing today?" Midnight asked, yawning. "We will be assisting young Midoriya on getting the wall built up today. If I can use my quirk, I can build it easily," Smentos said, looking out the window. He saw Izuku struggling to keep the fencing up as he was placing them in the ground in order to keep them there and keep the undead out. As the others looked out the window, they saw him working on the wall as much as he could. They were in awe of his hard work. He was really trying to make sure the block was ironically blocked off from the dead. Time was soon passing by as Izuku finally managed to get one side of the street blocked off from the road where the dead would come in. Smentos had built tall walls up to 7 feet in height in order to keep the dead out, not to mention it was made out of concrete. Izuku was happy that he was able to make the wall like that, but was concerned about if there was another person out there who could manipulate the ground to where he could enter like Smentos. But he decided to continue like he was as of that moment. As that was happening, May had finally finished her weapons that Izuku told her to make as she saw the people of UA Academy there and couldn't help but notice that Power Loader wasn't there. "Where is Power Loader?" May asked the adults. "He didn't make it. He was with Nezu when the undead attacked the school," All Might said, sadly. May didn't even look away as she nodded her head and got herself some food to eat. Izuku entered the building and got something to drink as they looked to Izuku on what to do. "How fast are some of you?" Izuku asked. "The fastest one of us would have to be All Might because of his versatile quirk, but other than that, it would be Shota." Midnight said. "I see. Is there a way some of you could go and get some building supplies from the tool store down the road?" Izuku asked. "Which tools are you looking for?" All Might asked. "I am looking for gardening tools as well as some building tools as well," Izuku said, looking at the man. All Might nodded as he left through the front door as Izuku went to sit down on the couch. As he was resting on the couch, he saw the other heroes looking at him, worriedly. "What are you worrying about?" Izuku asked as Eri waddled up to him and used grabby hands for him to pick her up. Doing so and placing her on his lap, he looked at the heroes. "What?" Izuku asked, confused. "We just never saw a 14-year-old kid acting as a parent for a 6-year-old before," Shota Aizawa said, staring in awe. "It's not as easy as you would think, but I have been managing since before I met May. But if I can say anything about it, I don't regret allowing her into my home at the start of this," Izuku said, smiling at Eri. It wasn't until later that All Might had returned with the gardening tools with some seeds and some smaller glass panes for a small greenhouse. "Thanks All Might, I will get to setting this up tomorrow. I need to make sure that everything is in order beforehand though," Izuku said, walking off. The next day came as Izuku was outside again and placing the wall on the other side of the street, as he had been using some of the metal from the broken cars nearby as he placed them in front of the street, as he even used the cars as a makeshift wall as well at the edges of the road where his smaller wall couldn't get to. Smentos would then come outside and place a cement wall there as well as a door there in order to open and close when they came and went on missions outside of the walls. During this part of the day Izuku raided the houses nearby as he got as much food and water from them as possible in order to keep them completely stocked. He was soon hit with a dilemma: how would they deal with the undead that couldn't be killed because of their quirk? What would happen if he got bitten by a quirkless undead? His thoughts would be interrupted as a red speck was flying towards him from the sky. He didn't know who this was, but they were coming in fast. As soon as he jumped out of the way he saw that it was the pro hero Hawks as he was slowly getting up from the ground. "Gah, that hurt like a bitch," the pro hero said, dusting himself off. "Hawks?" Izuku asked. Today was not going well for Hawks, the number 3 hero. He had been looking for supplies so he could survive this as long as possible when he was blasted out of the sky by some blue flames. He looked at the culprit and found Dabi, one of the most dangerous vigilantes out there. As he went to defeat him, the bastard tried to bite him, for some reason. As he beheaded the bastard, he found himself completely confused as to how he was able to kill him so easily. He inspected the body only to find that it was undergoing necrosis and had been for a while. He was instantly worried about his fellow heroes out there and made to fly away, forgetting that some of his feathers had been burned away. As he was flying around the entirety of Japan, he found that everywhere was covered in people attacking the innocent. It was like chaos on Earth, and a man in a suit was at the front with a deformed face and was currently chomping on some unknown hero. Just as Hawks was about to fly away, the deformed face of the villain leading the small army of individuals was onto him as he tried to kill him. Hawks was just barely able to avoid getting bitten by him, but as soon as he threw the bastard to the ground below, he flew away in order to escape. But not before getting hit in the back with something, causing a terrifying crack in his back which caused him to fall to the ground. Landing on the ground, he woke up from the blackout of pain as he stood up. Inspecting himself, he found one of his wings were broken. "Gah, that hurt like a bitch," he said, inspecting his broken and bleeding wing. Hawks," a voice called out behind him. Turning around to find a young 14-year-old kid with green hair with black roots, standing near him with a bandage out. He noticed the teen's eyes, scanning him for anything dangerous. "Don't worry kid, I'm fine. Not bitten at least," he said, causing the kid to calm down a little as he came up to the hero and patched up his wing. "How do you know how to patch me up like that?" Hawks asked. "I wanted to be a doctor, so I learned all that I could in order to do that. Not to mention that I was bullied in school before this whole thing started," Izuku said, looking away. "Do you know what the hell is going on then?" Hawks asked, confused as all hell. "The dead are walking the earth and you are asking me what the hell is happening?" Izuku deadpanned. "I get what you're talking about, but how are they able to use their quirks?" Quote. Hawks asked, bewildered. "I don't know, I have never seen them using any quirks. All I know is that they head towards the nearest set of quirks and kill them, adding them to their numbers." "Were you followed?" Izuku asked. "No. I was blasted out of the sky by some guy in a suit and tie that was incredibly torn apart, and he used an air-compressed blast to do it," Hawks said. "A guy with a suit and tie that was torn apart, not to mention he had an air compression quirk?" Izuku asked. "Yes, then that means that he is dangerous for those who can fly," Izuku said, before asking one more question. "By the way, what did his face look like? So, we can avoid him?" Izuku asked. "His face was deformed. Not even his eyes were able to be seen. But he was trying to chomp on me when he literally jumped up to the height of where I was at. It was extremely scary," Hawks said, shivering. "Well, let's get you inside. You need to heal in order to go back out there to find your group," Izuku said. "Group? What group?" Hawks asked. "You don't have a group?" Izuku asked. "No, I was on my own," Hawks said, concerned. "You are not to be alone out there. That is how they kill you," Izuku hissed, dragging the hero into his home to further help him. "Ow, ow 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 ow," Hawks complained. As Izuku sat the hero down at the table, he placed the wing of his in a sling on his back and covered it in bandages, but not to the point of which he couldn't get it to be uncomfortable. "Thanks again, little birdie," Hawks said, finally settling down from his high of adrenaline. "No problem. I just wish to help those in danger. We need to see if there are any more people out there in serious need of help. And we need to do it soon. The more people we have, the more people can defend this place." Izuku said, "I can see that, since you already have the #1 hero here as well as the #1 underground hero here as well," Hawks said, as Izuku blushes from embarrassment. "You shush. Get some rest, that will take about a week of healing. Trying to make sure we don't tire out the old lady," Izuku said, getting a whack to his head. "I am not old, young man. I am still feeling like I am in my 30s. The old woman said. All right, Granny Chio," Izuku complained. "That's better. Now how is your wing doing, Hawks?" Chio asked. "It's feeling a little better, but other than that hurts like a bitch," Hawks said, before getting a whack to the head as well. "What the hell?" Hawks groaned as he stared at Izuku, who pointed in another room. Looking over there, he saw a little girl who was being shy, hiding behind a couch, staring at them as well as listening in on their conversation. Sorry," he said, looking away. The next few weeks went on like normal. That was until Izuku hears banging on his wall to the left of the block as he runs over there and found a few girls looking around. "Is there anyone there? We need your help," a girl with black hair in a ponytail called out. "Who are you?" Izuku yells down to them. "My name is Momo Yaoyorozu, and this is Kyoka Jiro, Ochako Uraraka, and Mina Ishido. We need help because the undead are coming," the girl, now known as Ochako Uraraka, called out, looking down the road as he saw a huge horde coming. "All right, grab my hand," Izuku said, as she grabbed his hand. He pulled her up and placed her next to him as he grabbed Kyoka next as he reached out for Momo, while Ochako reached for Mina. As soon as they got the girls out of harm's way, Izuku brought them into the walls as he led them to a room in the lower portion of the apartment complex. As soon as they were in there, Izuku looked at them with a blush on his face as he looked at them. "I'm sorry to tell you this even after you asked for my help, but in order to protect the people I have here, I need you all to show me if you all have any bites on you," Izuku said, looking away embarrassed. "Why?" Mina asked, incredibly offended at that moment. "I'm sorry, but I don't know you. Not to mention that I did risk myself in allowing you girls in here without consulting the others. I am trying to make sure you don't have bites, as that could only be bad news," Izuku explained. "What are you talking about? What happens when you're bit?" Momo asked, confused. "You don't know?" Izuku asked. "Know what?" Kyoka asked. "Well, if you're bit, you turn within the next few hours. I need to make sure that none of you are bitten. I can bring a female person to see if any of you girls are bitten," Izuku said, causing the girls to look at him like he grew a second head. "Could you repeat that, please?" Ochako asked, worried. "If you're bitten by one of them, you turn," Izuku said, looking at her. The girls then looked at one another before looking at him again. "Want me to bring in a girl so she can see if you have any bites?" Izuku asked, incredibly nervous. Sure," Momo said. Izuku left the room, and not too long later a woman entered the room as she stared at them with a gaze that made them incredibly nervous. "Now then, young ladies, spread 'em," the woman said, as she gazed at them filled with lust. Take 2. Greater than sad face. "Now can you girls take off your clothes and show me if there are any bites on you?" the woman asked, as she gave the girls a pointed look. The girls listened to her as Mina hid her left arm behind herself as she didn't want it to be seen. The woman noticed this and pulled out her arm as she noticed the bite on her arm. It was similar to a human bite. "Where did you get this?" the woman asked, seriously. "A perverted dead one bit her as soon as she was in the bathrooms," Ochako said, looking away. "What is your quirk?" the woman asked, curious. "It's acid. I can use it to dissolve anything as well as use it as a lotion," Mina said. "Try to push your acid to the boiling point and have it come out of the bite in your arm," the woman said, urgently. As soon as Mina did, it caused her great pain that she screamed in agony. The girls had gotten covered back up except Mina as Izuku barreled in looking around for the screaming person and found her screaming because of the acid coming out of her bite wound. As soon as he noticed that, he came over to her and placed his hand on her arm as he moved the acid off her arm as it dissolved the bone away, causing it to fall off of her. As soon as that happened, Izuku told her to stop releasing acid, to which she did, as Izuku covered her now wristless arm with some bandages and then placed it in a sling. That should be good now. Now, if you don't mind, I will leave the room and inform the others of our guests. Midnight-san, please show the girls to their rooms, Izuku said, leaving the room. As soon as he left the room, Mina noticed that he never saw her naked body, but if he did, he didn't seem to care about it. Why didn't he look at my body? She asked, dejectedly. Well, he isn't one who gets flustered by a naked woman's body. Especially if he has already felt my breasts, Midnight said, smirking at the girl. Wait, he felt you up and you let him? Mina and the girls asked, confused. I did. He was going through a lot during that time. He had received news that his mother was dead and one of the undead. He had been through a lot, not to mention that he has a girl with him who has never heard the words of personal space. Midnight chuckled. Is he the only guy there? Momo asked. Nope, there is All Might, Shota Aizawa, Smintos, and finally Hawks. Midnight said, but before leading the girls off she looked at them one more time with a little tease. But if any of you think about giving him your virginity, you will have to wait until I have my turn with him. Midnight said, chuckling as the girls had become red in the face. Izuku woke up the next morning as he walked out of his room with only his pants on as he moved to go outside. He got out there and found his garden was beginning to grow beautifully. He moved over to the garden as he watered them with his hose. He watered them as he made sure that he had enough water collected from the rain the night prior. As he moved back inside, he found the girls from the previous day standing there looking at him with blushes on their faces. Izuku questioned as he looked down at himself and saw that his upper body was showing his abs as well as the scars on his body. In a cartoonish kind of way, Izuku's face was slowly getting red as he was realizing what was happening before. He ran off leaving some dust behind and got a shirt on and came back out. Sorry about that, forgot that you girls are here, Izuku said, nervously chuckling. As this was happening, Midnight was squealing happily as her plan was slowly working as she was getting the girls hot and bothered. The only one not looking at Izuku was Kyoka as she was staring at Momo's chest. Izuku walked over to Midnight as she looked him over as he was slightly nervous with her. Midnight looked at him with a look that was of confusion as he pulled her away as she noticed he was taking her to his room. As soon as they were in his room, he laid on her lap as he was trying to sleep away the dirty thoughts he was having at the moment. And Midnight wasn't helping him at the moment, making lewd comments in his ear as his face was reddening at a fast pace. As the afternoon showed up, Izuku was taking his mind off what happened that morning with himself and the girls as he was tending to his garden by watering it. He was really glad that he had the seeds to grow carrots, pumpkins, watermelons, and more. As he was still going around the small block, he heard the sounds of moaning coming from outside the walls as he moved closer to them in order to see what the hell was going on. He made it to the top of the wall only to find Hawks there looking a little shocked at what was on the ground on the other side. What's going on, Hawks? Izuku asked. I think you would rather see for yourself, Hawks said, giving Izuku the binoculars. As Izuku was looking through them, he found that an extremely large horde of undead were heading towards his block and he wasn't happy. Hawks, get the others to hide inside the houses as well as apartments and barricade everything, Izuku said, running to sound the alarm. Hawks ran down the stairs of the walls and headed back to the apartment where everyone was staying. While that was happening, Izuku ran over to his portion of the wall and found something that wasn't supposed to be there. Bang! Hawks busted through the door, startling the occupants inside as they screamed as they threw a knife in his direction with him catching it. The dead are coming, stop what you're doing and barricade the building. ? Hawks called out, causing everyone to begin their jobs. Wait, where's Izuku? Ochako asked. He is sounding the alarm. He will be fine. The dead don't register him as food, Hawks said, moving away. What do you mean he isn't registered as food to them? Mina asked, confused. That means that if he gets bitten by them, he doesn't turn, and they would only bite him and not tear him to shreds. Hawks said, getting the barricade materials. This was happening very fast. The undead couldn't have followed him there, right? This was too much stress being placed on their place of safety for their minds to take. As the main lobby was barricaded to hell and back, they found Izuku walking back with a torn shirt as well as a few injuries, but he was overall fine. He ran through his secret entrance that he covered up as soon as he opened it and got inside. As he crawled through the little tunnel, he was just about to exit the tunnel when he heard the sounds of the walls breaking down outside the apartment. Doubling his efforts in trying to get out of the tunnel, he finally made it into the garage of the apartment, and he climbed the stairs to get to higher ground. He found that the lobby was mainly barricaded as it was the thing that they all decided to do, and he made it to his apartment in order to make sure that everyone was safe and sound. As he entered the apartment, he found that they were all hiding in corners with his dirty clothes near them, as some of the girls were disgusted with doing this. "Why didn't you wash your clothes? They stink worse than the dead," Momo Whisper shouted in anger. "Do you want to die?" Izuku asked, seriously. "No, but you seriously need to clean these," she said, angered. "If I were to wash them, you all would effectively be dead, because the undead can't smell you when you smell like a quirkless reject." Izuku shouted. "Why, you're quirkless?" Momo asked, confused. "Yes, I have been ever since the age of 4. Now if you're done complaining about the smell of my clothes, stay the fuck quiet, or else I would toss you out to the damn undead." Izuku shouted at her, causing the other girls to unconsciously move closer to the girl as she was close to crying. Izuku was staring into her eyes as he was filled with an anger that he hadn't felt since he found out Katsuki was only beating him until he was near death, when he found out he was quirkless because he didn't want him to die. "Why you wouldn't send her out there to die?" Mina said, confident that Izuku wouldn't kill her like that. "Try me. Everything was going fine before you all arrived here. I can make a split-second decision to toss all of you out of my home right now, and I couldn't care less until later. But the fact that your deaths would be on me is what is causing you all to be safe here for the time being." Izuku snarled, walking away down the hall. Eraserhead and the other teachers of UA heard the yelling as he came out and found Izuku with an uncharacteristic scowl on his face as he stomped to his room. He walked out to the living room to find Momo, Ochako, Mina, and Kyoka all sitting there crying. They didn't even mean to piss him off. They just were not a fan of the smell of his dirty clothes, and merely asked if he could wash them. "You are aware that the undead don't eat quirkless people, right?" Eraserhead asked them. "We had no idea that they didn't do that. We thought they ate everyone and everything exclusively." Mina said. "He really needs to clean his clothes. I don't think that they find him repulsive." Momo said. "Fact of the matter is, he has felt what it was like to have a chunk of himself taken out and eaten, and the simple fact that he is alive shows that they don't eat people like him. So deal with it," Eraserhead said. "I don't think that this place is safe. What happens if we are just going to be used as sex toys, or even worse, bait for the undead?" Mina asked. "I feel like we should stay leery of Midoriya. I just don't feel safe around him," Kyoka said, shaking her head. "Are you all just forgetting the fact that he could have just left us outside the walls here? He saved our lives, and you are all just thinking that he is going to do something bad to us all." Quote. Ochako Whisper shouted. "What do you think then? How do you know that he won't ask us to split our cheeks and fuck us 3 ways to Sunday then?" Kyoka asked, irritated with Ochako's neutral attitude. "Well, I know for one thing he could have left us out there to die. Not to mention the fact that if you paid any attention to what he was yelling about, he would feel guilty about sending us out there and we died," Ochako said, making the girls give her a deadpan look. "You really think that he wasn't being serious about what he was talking about? People change in this kind of world. I personally think that he was rude in the world before and now is trying to score points." Mina said. "Are you all not getting it? He could have left us out there. We could be dead, undead, or torn to shreds and who knows what else. But I would rather be his bitch than anything else because I only wish to live," Ochako said, cursing to her friends. "You would rather be his sex toy than take your chances out there?" Kyoka asked, bewildered. "Unlike all of you, but if you paid attention, he just stated that he was quirkless. How do you all think the quirkless generation of people are treated?" Ochako asked, angrily. "They are probably treated better than those with mutation quirks or quirks like mine," Kyoka and Mina said at the same time. "Wrong, they are treated worse than if they were us. They are abused, tortured, as well as suicide baited every single day of their lives. You want to know what I think about Izuku? He is a strong young man who has suffered the ill effects of this rotten society because of something he couldn't control. If I have to be his slut in order to stay alive in the slightest, then I will do my best to be his personal cum dumpster in order to fulfill that wish," Ochako said, walking away from them. As the girls were watching as one of their own walks away, they were beginning to think about what the hell is happening when there was a harsh blow to the building in the lobby. Izuku was seen rushing to the kitchen where he placed his camera systems to look in the lobby. "Shit shit 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 shit," Izuku muttered, pulling out a machete. As he moved closer to the front door, he looked at the girls who looked at him with fear since he was holding a weapon. He stared at them for a moment before a brief moment of sadness washed over him. He looked down as he thought about what he was going to say to them, and as he looked at them it was a small smile as he spoke. "If you wish to leave this place of safety so much, then you can choose to leave in the morning. With the amount of undead here it will be impossible to do so right now. If you would like to stay, that is on you, but I would never have someone be a slut in order to keep themselves alive. That is their decision to do. I give the people here a choice. Live or die, stay or leave. But the only rule you have is to listen to what I say, or there will be consequences. The reason that my dirty clothes aren't washed is because my smell is the only thing that causes them to leave those with quirks alone and forgotten. They don't even register that you have a quirk because my quirkless smell is stronger than yours. If you wish to leave, then that's your decision and choice. But I will feel guilt that I couldn't help you if you go out and die a few days later," Izuku said, walking out the front door. Izuku was running down the stairs as he found himself looking at a small horde that managed to break through the lobby's barricade. He pulled out his machete and started to slice and dice them until he found the one person that he wished wasn't a part of the horde. His own mother. She was limping around with parts of her left leg gone all the way to the bone. She was also looking as skinny as she was when he was 4. As she turned into his direction, he walked slowly up to her as she moved to him. As she took a bite of his shoulder as he hugged her, she spat it out in disgust and tried to pull away. "I'm sorry that I couldn't save you, Mom," Izuku said, as he looked into her eyes. Her soulless eyes, that used to be sea green but have life in them now being dulled and gray. "I'm sorry that you couldn't come home and be with your worthless, quirkless, reject of a son. I'm sorry that you can't see me grow up anymore. Mom, why did you leave me?" Izuku asked, crying as he held her close to him. The other undead had left the two alone as they continued down the street and broke down the other wall and left. All that was left was Izuku and his mother hugging it out. "Why did you have to go to work on that day? I can't do this without you, Mom," Izuku cried on her shoulder. As soon as he was near full-on wailing, his mother caught movement in the corner of the room as she moved to go see what it was. Izuku, looking over to see what it was, found it was Kyoka as she was looking at him with shocked eyes. And as soon as he realized what his mother was about to do, he killed her undead form to prevent her from attacking. "Why were you hugging that thing?" Kyoka asked, as she stared into Izuku's eyes. "You shouldn't have been there eavesdropping. I was talking to my mother, and she died in the start of this mess. So you tell me why you think that I was talking and hugging my mother." Izuku looked at her with a pained expression. "Are you a secret necrophiliac?" she asked, completely angered. "That was my mother. You really think that I would fuck anything that moves?" Izuku yells, as he moved away from the girl as he replaced the barricade. "Well, do you?" Kyoka asked, yelling as well. And as calm as can be he looked in her direction as he walked closer to her, and as soon as she was backed against the wall his height was causing her to tremble. Sure, she could use her quirk on him, but she was too scared to even use it. "I suggest you pack your things with the other girls. If you keep on thinking that I am just some guy who you think would fuck you girls in your sleep, I will have you know that there are even worse people out there," Izuku threatened as he walked back to his apartment. "I am so going to kill him if he threatens the other girls," Kyoka said, walking back. As Izuku entered the apartment he walked past the girls that were on the couches. They were fearful of his wrath. Not only that, but Ochako was the only one to see that he was bitten on the shoulder with a chunk missing. "Midoriya, are you okay?" Ochako said, with worry. "Don't worry about it, I can cover it up, at least I don't have to worry about turning into one of those things," Izuku said, tear stains on his cheeks. As he walked to the end of the hallway into the bathroom, Kyoka entered the apartment as she was completely scared shitless as well as she was trembling. What happened, Kyoka? Mina yelled, running over to the trembling girl. He told me that if I continue like I was then he suggested that I should pack my things with you girls. Kyoka said. Anything else? Momo asked. He told me that if I keep on thinking that he is just some guy who I think would fuck us girls in our sleep, he will have me know that there are even worse people out there. Kyoka said, trembling. Did something else happen? Momo asked, concerned. He was hugging one of those monsters. It bit into his shoulder and for some reason spat out his flesh. But the worst part was that he was calling that thing his mother. He was saying that it was his mother and not some monster that would have killed me if he hadn't killed it himself. I'm sure that if he was still in his moment with it he would have allowed it to kill me. Kyoka said, packing her things. I can't stay here if he is that mentally unstable. Mina said, packing her things with Momo. As the girls were thinking about leaving, they looked at Ochako as they saw her just standing there not packing. Aren't you coming with us? Kyoka asked, confused. You really are just as bad as the others in this newer world. Ochako said, walking away. Izuku came out of the bathroom to find Ochako standing there as she was looking at him. Did you threaten Kyoka? Ochako asked. I only stated to her the truth. And in terms of kicking them out, I did threaten her with that. Izuku said, sighing. Why? She asked. She walked in on a moment between me and one of the undead. It was my mother, Izuku said, showing a picture of a younger Izuku Midoriya. Ochako looked at the mother of Izuku and she looked at him and saw his eyes tearing up again. What happened to her? She asked. She went to work the day all of this started. She works at the general hospital nearby. I saw her many times when I was scavenging for food and supplies over the starting weeks. She always waved at me, but now that she is dead, I don't know what to do. She was the only thing that kept me together. The only thing preventing me from seppuku. Izuku explained. What about Eri? Ochako asked. She came over on the 6 days when this all started. I was on my last legs that day already thinking of suicide. My mom was the only one who never left my side when I was pronounced quirkless, and she stayed by my side through all the things that happened in my life. And now that she is gone, I don't know, Izuku said, sobbing now. He was truly broken now that he saw his mother in the flesh, not to mention he had to kill her undead counterpart. He knows that it wasn't her entirely, but it still hurt to have to put down his own mother since she was the light of his life, the only person who would stay by him and make him happy. Now with her gone, he can't continue any longer, he just wants it to end. People he saves, they hate him and think that he is some rapist and wants him to leave them alone. People he gives a second chance to make things right and recover a relationship with him. They die before they could be redeemed and he can't lose another person. If he does, then he can't live with himself. He sobbed on the floor as Ochako didn't know what to do, so she sat down next to him and placed his head on her lap as she rubbed his head. Listen to the music here. Hush little baby, don't you cry. Mama's gonna make you a birthday pie. Even though daddy's not here right now, mama's gonna be here for the night. Even if mama's not here with you, she will be with you forever in your heart. Please make sure that you are brave. 'Cause mama hopes you will save them from themselves. You should be the little hero that I know you will be. Now hush little baby, don't you cry. Mama's gonna love you for all her life. As Ochako finished the song, she found that Izuku was passed out from the song as well as the stress. She smiled sadly as she looked down at him as she moved his hair out of his face as tears were streaming down his eyes. She then carried him to his room where she placed him there so he could rest for the night. It was already dusk out and just as she was about to leave, Izuku's hand softly grabbed hers and pulled her in his bed. Leaving the poor girl blushing madly, she looked at his face as it showed a sad as well as fearful expression in his sleep. As she was slowly falling asleep, she found the other girls looking at her with an angered expression as they left the doorway and left the place of safety. The next morning Izuku woke up with his eyes feeling like they had just entered a desert and he got up from his bed. He looked around his room to find Eri sleeping in her little bed with Mei as he turned around to find Ochako sleeping in his bed. Wah! Izuku couldn't finish his shocked screech. It was enough to wake up Ochako though. What time is it? Ochako asked, confused. Girl in my bed, what happened? Did I do something to her last night? No, that couldn't have happened. Did I take advantage of her in my lowered mental state? Izuku thought of the many possibilities. Hey, are you okay? You were extremely down in the dumps last night. You even pulled me into the bed last night to prevent your nightmare from continuing. Ochako asked. Why yeah, come and let's go see if your friends are still here. Izuku said, pulling her out of the bed. As she was walking with him, they found a note on the counter as it stated that they took all of the food with them as they left in the night, all while thanking him for the safe place to sleep for the nights that they were there. How could they? Ochako yelled, in anger. Don't worry, if they left during the night that means that they couldn't have gotten very far. Izuku said. What do you mean? Ochako asked. They are more powerful in the night. Not to mention the fact that their senses are a lot stronger as well during the night. Izuku said, getting some better clothes on for scavenging. Oh, are they okay though? Ochako asked. Not really, from what happened yesterday it is very likely that they are dead. Izuku said, finishing his correct scavenging clothes requirements. He looked at Ochako as if she was going to stay here. Are you coming with me or not? Izuku asked. I would rather stay safe with the girl who can make weapons as well as the teacher that can fight with different martial arts, sorry. Ochako said, glumly. Don't worry, I don't take offense to that. I would be better at getting supplies, alone anyway. See you when I return. Izuku said, leaving the building. See you, Ochako said, before someone came up behind her. As Izuku walked around the neighborhood he found out that the girls were indeed very much dead as they had been found torn to shreds on the ground not even far from the broken down gate. Seriously, I give them the chance to survive the night as well as wait for the undead to leave, and they just leave at the worst possible time. Izuku muttered, collecting all the bags of clothes and food. As he was walking back to his gate, he found a dog slowly walking behind himself. What is your name, little guy? Izuku asked, getting the dog's attention. Barf. The dog barked. I see, you don't have a name. Izuku said, as the dog nodded its head. Well, I guess I can name you Shiro. Izuku said, as the dog barked and followed him. I hope everything is going fine at the base. Izuku thought to himself. Izuku re-enters the building with Shiro, the dog he found out on the street as they enter the main lobby of the apartment building. He was walking through it as he came upon his dead mother's corpse, and he looked at Shiro as the dog was seemingly looking at the dead corpse as well. Don't worry Shiro, she's long gone. She won't wake up ever again. Izuku said, with a broken tone. He found himself entering the apartment to find Ochako and Eri eating breakfast while Mei was building weapons at the table. Morning girls, Izuku said, walking in with the food and supplies. Hey, are you okay? Did you find the girls? Ochako asked, concerned. Yeah, they didn't make it very far from the broken gate. They were torn to shreds, couldn't become one of those things at least. Izuku said, as he watched the girl's eyes begin to water. I'm sorry that it came to that, I was only trying to look out for them. Izuku said, looking away waiting for the slap. But it never came as he felt arms wrap around him. He looked into Ochako's eyes as she looked him in the eyes as she asked him a question. Why do you act like whatever you do is something that you need to be punished for? She asked, concerned for him. Because I was born quirkless, the world made it its mission to make sure that whatever I did was something that I needed to be punished for. From the age of 4 I was abused by my peers, mentally challenged by the ones who had quirks, not to mention accused of many things that I had never even done. So I guess, it was still ingrained in me to think that no matter how I try to change things I still wait for myself to be punished. Izuku said, looking at Ochako. Oh God, just kiss already and have sex. Mei called out, watching them. After hearing this both blushed really hard as they screamed out her name as they were embarrassed since they were having a moment. Jesus problem child, I never thought that you'd have this much difficulty asking for a girl to have sex with you. Aizawa said, grumbling. He had gotten his coffee and was drinking it when he overheard their talk as he moved to head to the lobby. Don't worry about your mother's corpse. Me and All Might will bury her in the backyard so that she can rest easy. Aizawa said. Thank you Aizawa-san. Please inform Smentas about the breach in the walls. Izuku said, walking off with Ochako. Will do, problem child. Aizawa said, walking off. Outside the building, All Might and Aizawa were digging a grave as they saw the dead body of Izuku Midoriya. I can't believe that young Midoriya has lasted this long without his mother. But there is something that I don't get, All Might said, gaining the attention of Aizawa. What is it? He asked, pushing his shovel into the dirt as he pulled out some of it. Where is young Midoriya's father if his mother is here in Japan as well as being dead? All Might asked. From what Izuku had told me, his father abandoned them as soon as he was found out to be born quirkless. But he still was kind enough to send them money for child support. It just sucks that the money he got doesn't account for anything anymore. Aizawa said, as they finished clearing up the area for the grave. I know, it just confuses me that people would just give up their child all because of something they couldn't control. It makes me sick to the stomach that I don't have any more at the fact that people abandon their children because of something as useless as a diagnosis of being quirkless. All Might said, I know, but the statistics all around the world state that Japan's quirkless population has been getting bullied to the point of suicide, and Izuku is lucky to have even made it this far in his life. Aizawa said, cryptically. What do you mean? All Might asked, placing Inko in the grave. Well, the quirkless population never make it to high school age anymore because of the suicide baiting as well as the abuse they get from their peers. Aizawa said, covering the body of Inko. They continue to cover the corpse until they hear a noise coming from the brush of a bush nearby. All Might get into a fighting position as he notices something moving in the brush. Aizawa called the alarm. There might be one of the dead still here. All Might called out. Aizawa ran off to sound the alarm when the thing hiding in the bushes comes out and reveals itself to All Might. I thought you were dead. All Might said, confused as hell. Aizawa ran through the building as he was searching for Izuku. He couldn't understand how it was this hard to find a 14-year-old kid. He continued to run all around the building when he overheard a conversation. I know that I am not worthless. But I can't help but feel like it all the time since there seems to be nothing that I can do in order to change the past. The voice said, as a feminine was also heard. Izuku, you need to learn that no matter what you do, there is nothing worse than thinking about the worst case scenario as well as thinking those kinds of thoughts as it wasn't your fault. The feminine voice called out. I can't help it, Ochako. I forced them to think that I was a threat to their safety, and I only blame myself for pushing them to that point because of the fact that my mind has been broken down to the point that I think suicide is the best case scenario to end this miserable life of mine. I have no quirk, I have no friends, I lost my mother at the start of this god-forsaken mess, and people are just too afraid of me because they just can't see the fact that I was not what they thought I was. I have lived my life thinking that I was worthless because of those around me constantly telling me so with that stupid name Bakugo gave me as a kid. I can't stand living like this any longer. My mom is dead, I don't know where my dad is nor do I ever want to know where he is. I have a little girl who looks to me for every and all answers that come to every problem that we face. I have multiple girls that make me feel things I have never even felt before in my life. Not to mention this bullshit that happens to my groin at night where there is constant pain and I can't stop it. So please tell me what to do so I can do my hardest to stop the pain from continuing. Izuku yelled, before Aizawa heard a slap sound. Feeling better now? Ochako asked. Not really, Izuku said, before Aizawa heard the distinct sound of her hand raising up again. Let's just see what Aizawa-san wants, Izuku said, as he walked near the door. Just as he was about to open the door, Aizawa walked inside the room as he looked at both of them. Izuku was sporting a bruise on his cheek as he was crying profusely, and Ochako had her face reddened as she was in close proximity to Izuku, and her mind couldn't take it. Two things. 1. You need to get serious help about that issue with your mentality. 2. There seems to be another one of the dead inside the walls remaining from the horde that came by. Aizawa said, as Izuku's eyes widened as he ran out of the room grabbing his machete. You did the right thing, Uraraka, Aizawa said, moving towards the door. Really? Ochako asked. Yes, if he was allowed to continue with that self-deprecating mindset, he would have got himself killed and everyone here would be saddened by his absences. Aizawa said, leaving the room. By the way, just fuck him already. If he is telling you about the raging boner he gets at night, then you need to help him take care of it. Aizawa yelled, causing the poor girl to become too embarrassed. Hound dog. How are you alive? All Might called out. I was attacked with Principal Nedzu when we were on our way to the Hero Commission. I made it out with Principal Nedzu, but we got separated on the way to this part of the neighborhood. The pro-hero said, stumbling into the place. Are you bitten at all? All Might asked, worried. No, they all tried to chomp me, but I managed to maneuver around them all and killed them all in one hit. What the hell is happening to the world? He asked, confused and tired. All Might, a young voice called out. Young Midoriya, I need your assistance. All Might called out, dragging Hound Dog. Izuku dropped his weapon as he ran over to assist the number one hero. As they dragged him closer to the building, Izuku looked over his injuries. How did you survive? I thought that the dead went after all of the people with quirks. Izuku asked, bewildered. They go after those with quirks? Hound Dog asked, as he was sat down on the couch in the lobby. Izuku was patching his body up as he nodded his head. I've watched them over the months since this whole thing started and it wasn't pretty. They can use the quirks of those who they have killed. I was barely able to survive this long, and ever since then I had been meeting with people who have been out there on their own. Izuku said, I thank you for your assistance, young man. I believe you could become a great doctor if you gave it a try. Hound Dog said, smirking. I could,